Let's go, girls. Welcome to Talk Wealthy to Me. Okay, ready? Hi, ladies. Welcome back to Talk Wealthy to Me. I'm Michelle Taylor, your host, and I am so, I'd say thrilled to be back, but I also just got back from Italy on a family trip and Germany and Austria. And I don't know about you, but it's always a little bit hard to come back. And I catch myself thinking, what would it take for me to stay forever? So here I am, excited to be with you all and looking forward to this conversation. Okay, so with that, I want to talk today about cash. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's just money sitting in your checking account or in your savings. Money that you can see, you can touch, and never goes down. That feels really responsible for a lot of people, right? It feels good. It feels safe and warm and secure. The grown-up choice, maybe. The choice that a careful, capable, responsible woman would make. But today I'm going to tell you something that might sting a little. Holding a pile of cash can feel like a strategy while it's actually doing the exact opposite of what you think it's doing. And this conversation is timely because of some of the reports that have been released in June to show us what's happening with inflation and the Fed. And we'll find out what happens at the end of this month. But at the end of the day, I love to remind people that cash is the most expensive place to hold your money. And that's just because it's not keeping up with inflation, ever. So if you are a woman who has ever looked at your bank account and felt a little wave of relief and decided, I'll just leave it there for a little bit longer until something feels really good, this episode is for you. And by the end of this conversation, I hope that you understand the hidden cost of sitting on too much cash. Think of it as being on the sidelines of a really exciting game. You need to have some, sure, but also not too much. And how in the heck do we figure out what those numbers are? That's what we're going to do today. Every dollar you own needs to have a simple framework of how it's working for you and where it fits into this wealth planning extravaganza or journey that you're on. So let's get into it. Okay, so let me describe a woman that I meet all the time. And if I'm being honest, I have been her in the past. She's smart, she's successful, she's earning a great income, or maybe she's sold something and she's holding on to some money really tightly from that. Or maybe she's just saved diligently for years because she grew up in a household where there was never enough and has a scarcity mindset and is terrified to see the dollars leave her account. By every outside measure, she's doing beautifully. She has a good amount of money just sitting in cash. And it's not because she has this big plan for it or because she needs it for something next month. It's just there, parked, waiting. And when I gently ask her about it, the answer is almost always some version of the same thing. Oh, the market makes me nervous. Or I just feel better knowing it's there. Or I'm just waiting for the right time. Maybe better safe than sorry. And friends, I want to be so clear with you. I understand that feeling completely. I'm not here to shame anyone for it. Like I said, I've been her. Cash feels like control for so many people. And my dad always used to say, cash is king. And I think what that means is just that cash as a tool gives you the freedom and option to get into or leave situations that you feel necessary. And that is true. But when everything else in the world is feeling uncertain, like the markets or the headlines and the economy or the news, the news is there to scare us. The number in your account is the one thing that doesn't move. So that may feel stable. It's not dropping. It doesn't scare you when you hear something on the news about a conflict or a new policy. You feel refreshed because when you refresh the screen, it's exactly where you left it. And I'll give it to you. There is something deeply soothing about that, but also a little bit like Groundhog Day, no? You don't want to see no growth with your money or with you, your family, ever, right? We want to keep moving. And so here's what I've learned in all my years of doing this work. Sometimes the thing that feels safe and the thing that it is safe are not the same thing. And nowhere is that more true than with cash. So let me give this pattern a name because once you see it, you can fix it. I call it just sitting on the sidelines. It's when your money is completely out of the game. They're not playing, they have a bum knee, sick, whatever. They are on the sidelines watching all the action happening. Now, that is not winning in any game I've ever seen. And it's not losing. It's just standing still and existing while the clock keeps running. And the clock, my friends, is never on the side of standing still. And that is what I want to prevent here today. Now, the fascinating part about this is that the women who overhold cash are very often the smartest women that I work with. They're not the careless ones or the ones who aren't paying attention. They're the careful ones, the thoughtful ones, the diligent ones, the ones who feel a sense of deep responsibility for protecting what they've built, not only for themselves, but the people that depend on them. So, why does intelligence and care lead so many women straight onto the sidelines of this exciting wealth building game we're all playing? I'll give you 3 reasons, because you're probably going to recognize yourself in at least one of them. The first is they've been burned, or they've been raised or watched someone they love get burned. Maybe they remember a downturn in the market, or watched a parent lose money, or a friend panic, or a business go sideways because a partner made bad decisions. And you yourself felt that gut drop of seeing an account fall, and your nervous system made a quiet decision. That is never going to be me. So their cash became their armor. And for me, this resonates so much because I watched that with my dad. As an entrepreneur, he had all of those things happen. He lost money in the market in 2008. He owned a construction or a company in the construction industry and had a partner at one time that made terrible decisions, and he had to file bankruptcy and start again. And I remember watching him on one day that is etched in my memory, sitting on the side of his bed, starting to cry. And I've never seen my dad cry. And he said, I'm afraid I'm going to lose it again. And now this was terrifying, right? How do you comfort the strongest pillar in your life as a kid? And I was, 20 something years old, and it terrified me. And I think back on that, and I'm so glad that I didn't allow that to stop me from jumping in with both feet, because he came out on top. And I think that all of us, when we bet on ourselves, will come out on top. The second reason, you'd rather miss the upside than feel the downside, right? And just like with falling in love or, anything like that, it can't be something that you avoid because of the what ifs. And for a lot of careful women, the pain of losing feels much bigger than the joy of gaining. So you're choosing the option where nothing bad can visibly happen, even if it means nothing good can happen either. You're trading away your growth to avoid your fear. Doesn't sound fun. And the third reason, and this one is probably the deepest, is that you've spent your life being the responsible one. If you listen to my episode on being everybody's safety net, you already know this thread. When you're the person that everyone leans on, you're keeping a big cushion of cash isn't just financial, it's almost an identity. It's the feeling of being prepared for the what ifs, not only for yourself, but for everyone else. You're the one that needs to be ready when something goes wrong. And none of those instincts are foolish or misplaced. They come from a place of wisdom. They come from experience, and they come from love. But here's the hard truth. that very same instinct is one that's exposing you to an invisible loss because you're protecting yourself from a visible one. And the invisible losses are the ones that hurt the most because you never see them coming. They blindside you until they've already happened. You are going about your business and happy as a clam, more than likely. Let me explain exactly what I mean here. There are two costs to sitting in cash. And the reason that that's so dangerous is that neither one shows up on your bank statement. The first hidden cost is inflation. And like I said earlier, inflation happens at some capacity no matter what. We have no control over it. And it's definitely something that happens to us and affects every part of our financial lives. Now, the thing about having cash is it's impossible when it's not invested to keep up with inflation. It can't grow with purchasing power if you're not letting it grow. And here's the thing about that. Nobody feels it in the moment. Your cash isn't actually standing still. The number's staying the same, but that number isn't shrinking. So, at least visibly. So it feels good. Not to age myself here, but I remember going to a vending machine and being able to buy a can of Coke for 50 cents, maybe 75 cents. Now it's like, I don't know, $5. Not really, but I don't drink Coke anymore, but it's a lot, right? And it's not because of anything other than at its core, inflation. Things cost more to produce, and it's going to cost you more to buy. So if you think about what a dollar bought you 10 years ago versus what it buys today, that is the perfect way to understand inflation in the simplest terms. It's the same dollar, it just has less life to it. Inflation quietly eating your purchasing power away is one of those danger zones. And here's a number that stops women in their tracks. At a fairly ordinary rate of inflation, let's say it's around 3%, the money you're holding loses roughly half of its purchasing power over about 24 years. Let that sink in for a minute. I have seen, different documents when I was going through my dad's stuff of the first house that he and my mom purchased for like $35,000. That wasn't 200 years ago, right? That was decades ago. And think about how quickly things have changed. 24 years goes by in the blink of an eye for so many of us. And that $100 that you have under your mattress or your grandmother has in her sock drawer is going to be worth half of the amount it is today. Your account says the same number, sure, but its real power to provide for you has quietly been cut in two. So cash may not feel risky, but it carries one of the most certain risks that there is. Not the risk that the number drops, the risk that the number stays the same while the world gets more expensive around it. The second hidden cost is opportunity. And this is the growth your money would have if you let it go to work for you. When your money sits on the sidelines, it isn't compounding. It's doing nothing. It isn't earning on its earnings. It isn't doing the quiet, patient, decades-long work that turns careful savers into genuinely wealthy people. And I have said so many times, you don't save yourself to wealth, and that's true. But you certainly are never going to get there if your money is asleep at the wheel. Over a long enough time, the gap between money that compounds and money that sits is not small, even if it starts out that way. It's not a rounding error. It's often the difference between comfortable and totally being financially free. Now, I want to be fair here because I am not a reckless person and I would never tell you to be one. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Investing those dollars, that carries real risk. And markets do fluctuate and fall and are volatile. That's all true. But here's what I need you to hear. Cash carries risk too. It's just quieter and slower and sneakier. And because it's invisible, most people never account for it at all. There is no option with zero risk. None. So we can acknowledge that right now. There is only the risk that you can see and the risk that you can't. And the women who win in the long run are the ones who learn to respect both and build a plan around both. So let me give you the reframe that I want to define this entire episode. There is a difference between safety you can feel and safety that actually compounds. Safety you can feel is the number that doesn't move. It's comforting, it's emotional, a warm cup of tea, and in the right amount, it's genuinely important. We're going to talk about that in a second, but I want you to know that safety that compounds is a totally different beast. It's the security that gets stronger over time. It's money that grows faster than the cost of living so that 10 and 20 and 30 years from now, you're not just preserved, you're ahead. And here's the distinction underneath the distinction. Most women are focused on protecting their dollars, but the goal was never to protect your dollars. The goal is to protect your purchasing power, what you can actually buy and do, and the ability to live the life that you want for as long as you live. That's the goal. A pile of cash protects the dollars beautifully. It just slowly surrenders the purchasing power while you're not looking. So once you understand that, the question changes. It's no longer, how do I keep my money safe? Now it morphs into how much of my money needs to feel safe and how much of it needs to grow. And that, my friends, is the question that you are able to actually answer. Okay, so here's how we fix this. And I promise you, it's going to be simpler than it sounds. The problem with sidelined cash isn't that it exists. It's that it has no assignment. It's just sitting there, watching the game be played, unemployed, slowly melting away. And the solution is a rule I want you to carry with you forever. And you guys have heard me say it before. Give every dollar a job. Every single one. Every dollar that you own or have should have an assignment. And when it comes to cash specifically, there are only 3 legitimate jobs it can actually have. And those are the 3 C's: the cushion, the calendar, and the catapult. So let's walk through each one. The cushion, this is your emergency fund. This is the money that exists for one reason, so that when life surprises you, you don't have to panic and you don't have to touch anything else. And likely the dollars that you would have to touch are the ones that will be working for you and making money. So we want to leave those alone. A common guideline is somewhere around 3 to 6 months of your essential expenses. And obviously, if your income is variable, like if you're a business owner or your earnings can swing vastly month to month, you may want to adjust this. But basic rule, 3 to 6 months. The cash is supposed to sit still. That's its job. The cushion is allowed to feel safe because feeling safe is literally its purpose in its life. Now, the calendar. This is the money that you already know you're going to spend soon. Money with a date attached. There's a tax bill coming up, or a renovation happening next year, or a big tuition bill, a planned purchase in the next, say, 1 to 2 years. You don't invest that money you'll need in the short term because you can't afford for it to dip, right? You need it. So the short-term money stays in cash on purpose because it has a calendar. Now, you definitely want to make that grow in the least risky way possible, and that would be with a high-yield savings account. And at least there, the interest rate you're getting is comparable to inflation. Job number 3 is the catapult. And it sounds fun because it is. This is your opportunity fund, your dry powder, the cash you keep ready so that when an opportunity appears, whether that's an investment, a sale, a moment, a trip, you can move on it without scrambling. You're ready. It's smart and decisive women that keep that catapult. It's not a fear of money. It's a readiness around money. So those 3 legitimate jobs can be assigned to your cash, and you are going to sleep better at night because of it. So remember, it's a cushion, it's a calendar, or a catapult. Now, here's the part that changes everything. Any cash beyond those 3 jobs is unemployed and not collecting a check. It's not safe, it's not strategic, it's just an orphan sitting on the sidelines, quietly losing purchasing power, doing no job at all, bored out of its mind. So set it free. Here's your homework. And you can easily do this today. Look at your cash accounts, all of them, whether that's, checking, savings, cash that's sitting inside of an investment account, Maybe it's in a safety deposit box or in a safe in the wall, wherever it is. Look at it, account for it, and write it down. And then ask yourself a question. What job is this dollar doing? Is it a cushion, a calendar, or a catapult? And if the honest answer is none of those things, then you just found money that needs to go to work. That's it. That's the whole framework. Give every dollar a job, and the moment you do, the sideline starts to disappear. And nobody wants to sit on the sidelines, right? Neither do your dollars. Now, I have to address the most common objection because I can almost hear you thinking it. Okay, Michelle, but I'm waiting for the right moment. The market feels so high, or maybe it just feels volatile or scary. I'm going to move that money to an investment once things settle down. I say this with so much love. The right time, the way you're imagining it, does not exist. It's just like having a baby or asking for a promotion or changing jobs or becoming a business owner. The perfect moment isn't happening. It's not knocking on your door. The truth that decades in this industry have taught me, time in the market beats timing the market every single time. The calm, boring patience of staying invested has over and over quietly outperformed the cleverness of trying to jump in and out of the perfect moment. Now, you may say, what about day traders? And sure, there are a lot of people that make great money doing that, but that's their full-time job. And there's a lot of risk that comes with that. It's a totally different beast. And here's the cool little trick that the market plays. Its best days have a habit of showing up right next to its worst days, often in the middle of all the fear, when sitting on the sidelines feels the most justified and safe. So the people waiting for things to settle down frequently miss the very recovery they were waiting for. Perfectionism is a beautiful quality in a craftsman, but applied to money, and it just becomes a very sophisticated form of waiting. And waiting, as I hope you've learned today, is never free. So the goal is not to find the perfect moment. The goal is to give your money the perfect job, and then let time, which is always your most powerful and most underrated asset, do the heavy lifting for you. Okay, so let's bring this home. If you've been sitting on the sidelines, and so many wonderful, caring, capable women have, myself included, I don't want you to feel 1 ounce of shame about it, because there is no shame in it. That instinct came from a good place, a great place. It came from wanting to be safe. It came from wanting to be responsible. But responsibility, real responsibility, isn't about keeping your money frozen. It's about keeping your money purposeful. Safety isn't a pile that sits still. Safety is a plan that grows. So here's what I want you to do before our next episode. Open your accounts, look at your cash with clear eyes, and run it through the 3 C's: cushion, calendar, catapult. Find the money that has a job, honor it, let it rest. And then find the money that doesn't have a job and make the decision to send it to work. Its days of unemployment are officially over because you didn't earn all of that cash just so it could sit on the bench and slowly fade. You earned it so it could build something for you and allow you to dream and build a successful life. And if you know a woman who's been waiting for that right time for a little too long, send her this episode gently, a little nudge. As always, it makes me so happy to spend time with you and change the narrative. We're doing it together, one conversation at a time. If something I said today resonated with you and you're not sure where to start, as always, drop me a DM. I'm happy to follow up with you and give you the guidance you might need to change not only your life, but the next generation as well. So, as I leave you, let's continue to change the way women think and feel about money together.